Week 1 of the college football season is in the books, and at First and 10, presented by our good friends at Allstate, we're already on to Week 2 from the Sporting News studios. I'm Tom Vanderwort with our college football writer Matt Hayes. And Matt, pretty good week for North Carolina, right? No-show classes are A-OK, and then they go out and beat Elon 62-0.
I'm telling you right now, Tom, if we weren't completely shocked about how the NCAA does its business week after week after week, we got a gentle reminder of how it all plays out in reality once again with the North Carolina situation. Somehow, some way, the NCAA has decided that the no-show classes at North Carolina were okay because, wait for it, everyone else on campus can take the same classes. Rich. So that's where we are with the NCAA investigation of North Carolina, which falls right in line with pretty much everything else the NCAA has done over the last couple of years under the big bad sheriff, Mark Emmert, who at some point is going to do so many things that are so confusing and so confounding that maybe the IRS may get involved and say, wait a second, do you guys really deserve that tax-exempt issue that you get? Because you're really not following your mission statement.
Well, it's interesting because I guess there's obviously tremendous financial incentives to get these guys on the field no matter how you do it. And isn't the NCAA supposed to provide an incentive to get them into the classroom? And now I wonder, are they even doing that?
A competitive playing field. That's part of their mission statement, Tom. And for anyone to think that keeping these kids eligible so teams can win, so television networks say, wait a second, we need to pay more money for these games. For anyone to think that that's not the case, there's absolutely nuts, okay? That's exactly what this is all about. And you can color it any way you want. You can say it's amateurism and we're all about the student athlete and we're all about academics. Obviously, you're not. It's pretty black and white right now.
Is there a breaking point at all in this model? I mean, it's been going like this for a while now. Is there a point when it breaks?
Tom, I think if you declare that a no-show class is okay because everyone else on campus can also take the no-show class, that's pretty much the breaking point for me. And maybe it's just me, and maybe I'm a guy who thinks, wait a second, what you're actually saying to these athletes is, we don't care if you graduate or not. We don't care if you take classes and actually better yourself away from the field. Just go to the no-show class, we'll pass you, and guess what? Everything will be great. You can play football. To me, that's insulting. You are insulting an athlete by saying you're not good enough to take a typical class and pass the typical class. And to me, that is the breaking point.
Yeah, I'm a little discouraged myself. But if we look back on the field, encouraged appears to be Urban Meyer, who says Braxton Miller is like the best thing ever. What's going on here?
He's the best thing since sliced bread now, Tom. It's funny, you know, Urban said many times now since he's arrived in Columbus that Braxton Miller is the most dynamic athlete he's ever had. And I got to tell you, Urb's had some pretty dynamic athletes over the years, including Josh Harris at Bowling Green, including a guy named Alex Smith at Utah, who, oh, by the way, was the #1 pick in the NFL draft, and including three other guys, one guy named Percy Harvin, who may have been the best wide receiver / running back over the last decade, and two quarterbacks, you may have heard of them, one guy named Tebow and one guy named Cam Newton. So I don't really know where Herb's going with this, but if you look at the actual reality of guys playing on the field and production, I can't think Braxton Miller is even close to being in that league yet.
Well, at least he has something to aspire to.
Right.
And you mentioned Percy Harvin, wide receiver position. Guys never won the Heisman Trophy from the wide receiver position, but I gather there was someone this past weekend that caught your eye out in Southern California.
You know, it's funny, Tom, but by the end of last year at USC, Robert Woods was the guy who got all the All-American accolades, and he was the guy at USC that everyone was saying was the great wide receiver. By the end of the year, Marqise Lee was the best receiver on that team. Not only on that team, but in the country. He is an unbelievable talent. You know, he had almost 300 yards of total yards last week, including a 100-yard kickoff return that was just ridiculous. Caught the ball, wasn't touched, and I actually think he ran that 100 yards in probably like 10-4. It was unreal. You know, he turned a simple hitch pattern on the first play of the game into a 79-yard touchdown pass. He is the real deal. And if any wide receiver, true wide receiver, can win the Heisman, Marqise Lee is the guy that can do it.
And should he? I mean, obviously we don't know in week 1, but should a wide receiver be able to win this thing? Why hasn't a wide receiver ever won it?
To me, I'll tell you what, Tom, to me, it's the best player. The best player in the big games. And it's going to be hard for him to because obviously Matt Barkley, his quarterback, is the guy that's leading it right now. He's kind of the quote-unquote leader going into the season, and they'll take votes away from each other. But if you look at him and he plays as well as he plays every week, how could you not at least say, wait a second, you got to at least look at this guy and realize that he's the most, to quote Urban Meyer, dynamic player in college football.
There you go. All right, that's Matt Hayes. He'll be back next week. And thanks once again to our good friends at Allstate with your First and 10. I'm Tom Vandervoort. Thanks for watching.